All right, oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to Getting Started, Choosing a Sperm Donor, Fairfax Cryobank. My name is Doreen Duggan. I'm going to be hosting this today. Looks like we have most everybody logged in. So we can start. There we go. I'm Doreen Duggan. I'm a client service supervisor. I also have Morgan Baker, who is the senior marketing manager, going to be moderating questions. And we also have Michelle Audie, our laboratory director and director of operations, available for questions as well today. And we're going to be talking about choosing a sperm donor. Our goals for today, we're just going to run through that real quickly, is explaining the donor categories, reviewing the donor products. We're going to show you a live donor search and demonstration, and we're going to be presenting donor selection services as well as discussing resources. All this is going to help you find your ideal donor match and allow you to utilize our services that we offer as best you can. All right, we have a poll to start us off. Have you started the search for your sperm donor? And you'll be able to click on yes or not yet, whether or not you have started the search for your sperm donor yet. All right, looks like a lot of you have. We're still collecting responses. Some of you have not, and that's fine. It's very intimidating if you don't, until you get a little familiar with what you're looking for. All right, we're going to give you a few more minutes to answer. All right, it looks like about 70% of us have already started looking for your sperm donor. That's great. About 27 have not yet. I mean, there's a lot of information we're going to go through getting started and what's the best way to start your journey. I like to call it a journey when I'm talking about it, because you're really starting from a point and you're going to end at another point. You can get started by sitting down and creating a list of characteristics that you value and that are important to you. You can start with physical characteristics if you're looking for a specific look, or if you're trying to match it to somebody that you know. With ethnic background, personality, for some people that's a very big important characteristic, because they're looking for something that sparks that in them. Education, we do have different levels of education on it for our donors, and different donor categories. Right now we have over 460 donors to choose from, so narrowing it down with even these 4 or 5 options are going to give you a smaller pool of what you're really looking for. All right, we have some important information to consider. We have donor brand codes, donor categories, and specimen types. For donor brand codes, we have 3 quality donor brands. There's Fairfax Cryobank, which is the majority of our donors. We also have Cryogenic Laboratories, which we acquired in 2002, and Pacific Reproductive Services, a lesbian-based sperm bank out of California, that we acquired in 2016. They're all quality, they all have high quality specimen, and they're all included in Fairfax Cryobank when you look on our website. As far as the donor categories, we have non-ID donors and ID donors. Non-ID donors were previously called anonymous donors, but they've agreed to participate as sperm donors, but don't want to share all their identifying information with recipients or adult children. We also have ID donors, which have agreed to allow Fairfax Cryobank to release identifying information to a registered child who requests it once they are 18. So your child must be registered, it must be conceived with an ID donor, and they must reach out to Fairfax Cryobank directly in order to receive information about their ID donor. We have different specimen types. I'm going to preface this by letting you know that I always recommend that you talk to your licensed medical professional to determine which preparation type is best for your insemination procedure. The ICI, or intracervical insemination preparation, have 10 million total motile cells. They are not washed, so they still have the seminal fluid. Intrauterine insemination, also known as IUI, is pre-washed, so it has the seminal fluid removed. It still has a quality standard of 10 million total motile cells. We also have our ART vials, and they come as ICI, unwashed, or IUI pre-washed, but their cell count is a little bit smaller, so they're sold in pairs. They have 6 million total motile cells as a quality standard, and you can combine 2 vials to have 12 million total motile cells. Again, that's going to be a question for your licensed medical professional to determine which is best, how they're going to use that, and it's going to be dependent on your procedure. Our donor information, we have information that's both free and other additional information that you can purchase. We are going to be talking later about our packages for access, where you can purchase one package and get all the information. But we do have a lot of free products if you're not ready to purchase the access package yet. We have childhood photos, the summary profile, which goes through information, includes medical updates, staff impressions, what our staff thinks of the donors. The donor essays, our donors are asked questions, and their responses are going to be available for you to see and trying to get a glimpse into their personality. Same thing with our audio clips. We have audio clips from our donor as well as our staff members, and that's a really great tool to listen to what that donor sounds like, as well as how they respond to things. We have their medical profile and their genetic testing summary, which is always available for free. We also have Face Match, where you're able to upload a photo and it's going to be matched against the donors available on our website to see if any of our donors look like what you're looking for. As far as products for purchase, we have the personal profile, which has more in-depth information about the donor. The silhouette, which is a blacked out side profile of the donor's face so that you can see what their features look like from the side. Some of our donors, not all, but some of them do have adult photos or lifetime photos. Adult photos show them as a child and adult and as an adult. Lifetime photos show them progressing from childhood to adulthood. We also have the full audio interview instead of the clips available for sale, and personality types. We use the Keirsey model to find personality types. And that's a great tool as well if that's something you're looking for, something specific. Next slide. There we go. This is a face match. This is an interactive way to help you to select your donor. It uses sophisticated mathematical technology to compare 2 facial images, shape of facial features to find a resemblance between the photo you upload and the adult photos of our donor. So that's one of the first things you see on our website in the donor search. You're able to upload your photo. You get to click on Face Match, find a photo of, maybe you're looking for someone that looks like a celebrity or a partner or somebody that you find would features that you want to have in your donor. You'd upload it on our Face Match, and it will be compared to every adult donor photo that we have available. And the results are gonna start with the highest matches and then go to the lowest matches. The donor photos are not available for all of those matches, but your photo is gonna be compared to all the ones that we have on file. The unlimited access package. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and probably the where you can get the most bang for your buck. I always like to talk about the full access with Club Fairfax, which is the most expensive package, but it does include some features that you're going to get some money back at the end. It includes all the information available in the donor's profile. It also includes 2 free shipping. Our shipping fees currently are $260 for 2-day shipping, 2 business day shipping, and $320 for overnight shipping. If you use both of those $320s, you're saving. You would have spent $640, and you would have paid $499 for that, as well as getting the full access to our profiles on the website. And this is not just one profile; it's going to be available for all of the profiles of the donors and all the information that's available. These access packages last 90 days, and you're able to repurchase as needed. Another benefit of the full access with Club Fairfax is if you're purchasing in bulk. If you're planning on buying 5 vials and in the year that you have the benefits, you would get 1 vial for free. So you buy 5, your 6th vial is free. You can use that over and over again as long as you're within that year of the access. Full access, where you're just getting full access to everything that's available on our website, is $149. That's the next step down. And I apologize for the Club Fairfax. You also get previewed emails about donors or brand new donors 2 weeks before the rest of before it's added, 1 week before it's added to the rest of the website. So you do get notified before everybody else. You get to see the brand new donors, and that's another benefit, especially if you haven't quite found what you're looking for yet. The basic access includes everything the full access does as well, except for the audio interview, lifetime photos, adult photos, and personality type. That is $109. And then we did go through all the information that's free: the summary profile, the medical profile, the staff impression, the donor essay, and the audio clips from the donor and the staff, as well as the childhood photo. Those are always going to be free. All right. So we're going to go through a live search for a donor. So I always go to donor search and new search, because you're going to start looking from no information. Some of this we talked through, the donor categories, whether you're looking for an ID donor or non-ID donor, entirely up to you and what you're finding important. We can check ID for now. For height, if that's something that you're looking for as well, we have 6'3" and above, 6 foot to 2 foot, or sorry, 6 foot to 6 foot and 2 inches, 5'8" to 5'11", and 5'7" below. Or you can do minimum and maximum heights as well, or any height if that's not something that's really a determining factor for you. Ancestry, we have Caucasian, Asian, Latino, Black, multi, or any. Hair color, we have different options for that as well. Eye color, if you're looking for a particular eye color that is a feature that is important to you. Again, it's all going to be determined by what you're looking for. Education, graduate donors are donors who have been working towards or have already achieved advanced diplomas. So if that's something you want to click on for your education, you can definitely click on that. And adult photos available. That's whether or not your donor has adult photos. If they don't, we're not going to be adding additional adult photos. So if that's something that's important to you, I would select that to make sure that you have a donor that has something that's available for you. And then specimen type. Again, that's going to be something that you talk about with your licensed medical professional. And sometimes that is a big factor that's going to narrow the results of your search, depending on what's available when you need it. We also have the genetic testing search. If you're a genetic carrier for something and you're looking for a donor that was tested and is negative for or had expanded genetic panel testing, this is a really great tool. I believe we have another webinar about that that has more information about going through genetic testing searches, and I advise you read or watch that as well if you want more information. The donor brand and the advanced search, if you're looking for ones you want to limit to either Fairfax Cryobank or Cryogenic Laboratories, which is CLI, and Pacific Reproductive Services, which is PRS, you can notate that there. The ethnic background has a little bit more specific ethnic background for if you're looking for someone from, see here, Taiwanese, a Thai background, Irish, whatever you're looking for, you're able to find our options that are available here. The skin tone, if you're looking for a lighter skin tone or a darker skin tone, hair texture, CMV status. Again, that'd be a question of with your licensed medical professional if that's something you need to adjust your search by. We do also provide the age range of donation. It's on the donor's profile, but if that's something you're looking for too, you can select any option that's within what you're looking for. Positive pregnancy, if there's a positive pregnancy reported on the donor's profile, you can search for donors that have only had a positive pregnancy. And blood type and Rh factor, which is whether the blood type is positive or negative. We also have lifestyle search on here, which includes additional information. I call this the fun information because you're looking for talents and hobbies, goals, pets, religion, astrological signs. We have all the information, their favorite subject. If that's something that's important to you, if you're looking for a personality type like that, you can narrow your search even more here. I will say it's very possible for you to narrow it all the way down to have 2 exact matches to exactly what you're looking for, and other partial matches where it has part of what you're looking for, but not everything. But this donor 6134 looks like it was matching what we put in, and you can see their full profile here with all the additional information that you can add to cart. It also shows where you can order here, and there's if you don't have an access package, it's also going to say, hey, you can buy an access package and receive all this information for free after you purchase the access package, I should say. All right. We also have similar donors listed. If you find a donor that you love and there's more, you're still looking, similar donors may match part of what you already put in there, but not everything. And you might be able to find a different donor that's a little bit outside the box that you had to see if it works for what you're looking for. You're able to download the free information and view it. Here as a PDF, you're able to print it. A lot of times clients will print their information and bring it to your physician to make sure that you're on the same page if they need to talk to you about whether or not this is a good match for you. It's also really great information to have on hand once you've had your child with a donor for future reference. But that is how you use our search features. I really highly encourage you, if you have not yet, to play around with that search to find out what you're looking for. Very quickly, from when you're looking at the profiles and the photos, you're going to determine, oh, this is for me or this is not. We do also offer selection services like the photo match. This is a form that you can find on our website where you can provide us with photos of someone that you want us to match to, and we're going to narrow down the donors to what you're matching for. There's 2 options on there. You can provide the donor numbers that you've already found and provide us with a photo, and we'll say, oh yes, this donor matches exactly what you're saying, and this other donor matches the least. Or you can put in all the characteristics that you're looking for, and we're going to be able to help you with your search and search for you based on that and tell you, oh, these are the donors that match what you asked for, your ancestry, preparation type that's available, the height, the weight, the skin tone, eye color, and hair color, all that characteristics. We're able to match it for you and give you a list. So that's a really great option. We also have consultation services where you're able to schedule a phone call with one of our specialists who's going to talk you through the donors that you already have found and say, okay, what are we looking for in this donor? And talk you through and help you narrow your list verbally. Sometimes it's great to talk that through with someone else. We have a lot of insight, and we're on the website constantly, so we're able to show you where things are. If you're not sure, if you have questions, we're able to confirm some information with you. But you'd be working one-on-one with a trained client service specialist for that option. Both of those are on our website under the donor search, the selection services. We also have great resources. We have our Fairfax blog where we have other webinars listed, as well as guest bloggers and all kinds of great information on that. Our newsletters, which are sent out by email, and our forums. This is an example of the blog that shows posts about what we are talking about in the month, other information about our newer donors, newsletters, which are also under resources and newsletter content. You can subscribe and you'll get emails, monthly newsletters, and it talks about promotions, information, new donors, what's going on at Fairfax Cryobank, and family forums. That is if you are trying to connect with people who use the same donor as you, or other people if you have questions. There's some general forums as well. But this is the forum that we moderate. If you're looking for specific information about a donor, if you're to connect with other people who use the same donor as you, it's a great tool that we have on our website. All right, that's a lot of information, but if you have questions beyond this, or if you're ready to start your journey to finding a donor, you can call our client services team. We're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 1-800-338-8407. You can also email us at info@fairfaxcryobank.com. If you're looking to ship outside of the US, we recommend that you email our international team at global@fairfaxcryobank.com. They're happy to help you answer any of the questions about shipping, finding a donor, donors that are compliant in your country as well. And we do have a poll after this webinar. How confident are you in selecting your sperm donor? We have, I'm a pro, medium understanding, still learning, a beginner. All right, looks like we're getting some good answers. All right. So it looks like 22 of us are pros, which is awesome. 54% have medium understanding, and we still have some beginners, which is great. I highly encourage you calling our 1-800 number if you have additional questions. If you are wondering how to use our website, any of our representatives would be happy to walk you through that. Make sure we answer your questions as accurately and helpfully as possible. All right, and because you have joined us on this webinar, we have question and answer time. We also have a promo code for full access. So you do get that full access to our website for 90 days. If you use How to Choose Donor 2021 and you add it to your cart. So that's going to give you until May 31st to use that access code.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Audie. I'm the Lab Director and Director of Operations. I'm joining you guys for the question and answer period today. Doreen, thank you. You did a great job going through everything. Morgan's gonna moderate the questions and throw them out to us, and we can answer as she does that.
Perfect. Great. Yeah, we have a lot of great questions already. Just a reminder, if you put them into this webinar sidebar, the questions box, we'll go ahead and we'll try to get through them today. So the first one here, it is, once thawed, how long does Iui Prep type sperm last in the uterus?
That's a good question. So if you are doing an at-home insemination and you thaw the vial as directed at room temperature for 15 minutes, and you see when you invert the vial that it is liquefied, you should really do the insemination immediately. And then once it's in the body, previously frozen sperm can live 12 to 24 hours in the body. So the sperm in an ICI insemination is being inserted through the vagina onto the cervix. And if you are doing that in-home insemination, we have a great home insemination webinar that you can watch from our website. Our nurse practitioner, Kate Wisda, who was fantastic. She's at our PRS clinic at Pasadena. She goes over the whole process and tips and tricks and all of that.
Great. Another home insemination related question, but this one, they want to know if we do deliveries to Canada for home insem.
We do not, but we do work with our Canadian distributors. So we would redirect you to ask that question to either Repromed or Can-Am Cryobank to see if they can assist you. Our US location is not able to ship directly to Canada. So you are able to purchase either for a clinic, or you can ask them about their home delivery policy. I'm not 100% on that. But you would ask the distributors that question.
Great. And do I need to provide a photo so you can try to find a similar profile to me?
You don't have to. That's an option. That's where you'd utilize that photo match or the face match. Either of those, you could provide us with a photo. The photo match option is paid, so you would pay us for that service, but the face match is free and available on our website. Either of those you can, or if you're just looking for characteristics, that's fine too. You're able to input that in our donor search.
Oh, and what about the donor selection services? Is that free or is there a fee?
I did not go over that. That there is a fee. I believe it's $80 per option.
Okay.
So you'd be able to pay for that, for any of that, and I believe it's $80 for a half hour for the consultation.
Okay, great. What are the different specimen types again?
We have IUI. Sorry, which
I was just going to say I can go over that. We can share. So the specimen preparation types really are dependent on the type of procedure you're going to have. So if you're going to have an intrauterine insemination, you can purchase Iui Prep vials. Now those are pre-washed to remove the seminal fluid, because when you're having an IUI, the catheter is inserted through the cervix directly into the uterus, and you can't have seminal fluid in the uterus. What happens in an insemination is the semen is typically placed on the cervix, and the sperm will swim through the cervix into the uterus up to the to find the egg. In an IUI insemination, you're bypassing that process. So the sample is placed directly in the uterus. So you need a pre-washed sample. That said, if you're going to have an IUI process and your donor only has ICI, you can ask your clinic to wash that vial. And what they'll do is they will wash the seminal fluid out of an ICI or an ICI ART vial to prepare it for an intrauterine insemination. So you can purchase the pre-washed IUI, the unwashed ICI. Both of those are a minimum of 10 million total motile cells. The ART preparations, either ICI or IUI, have at least 6 million total motile cells, but I'm going to tell you, being in the lab, they all have more than that, but it's at least 6 million. And the reason we created the ART preparation type is because some individuals have to go through assisted reproductive techniques. They're using IVF or ICSI, and to fertilize an egg using IVF or ICSI, you need far fewer sperm. So we wanted to provide a lower cost option for those individuals. That said, you can combine, as Doreen pointed out, you can combine 2 ICI or 2 IUI to do a regular insemination.
I just want to add that you always want to talk to your physician before purchasing. The last thing we as a team here want you to do is purchase the incorrect preparation type, because that's frustrating and we want to avoid that for you. So always talk to them beforehand and make sure that you have that preparation type knowledge going into purchasing with us, so you know exactly what you need.
And just as an aside, on the website, there is a great infographic that shows you very simply, if you're having this procedure, here are your vial options. If you want to purchase these vials, here are your procedure options. So that's available on the website.
Great. How many vials should you order at once?
It's going to be up to your plan at the end of the day. If you want to purchase one at a time, if you want to purchase multiple, it's going to be dependent on how many insemination attempts you want to try, as well as how many children you want to have. I mean, and how many vials are for your insemination procedure. So there's a little bit of math and a little bit of a conversation about what exactly your plan is and what exactly is needed for your procedure to go into that. We do offer storage here at Fairfax Cryobank if you wanted to make sure you wanted to purchase your donor vials and send them out one by one. We're also able to ship more than one as well. So it's a little bit up to what you need.
Just a little bit of guidance for that too. In any cycle, when somebody is ovulating, you have a 15 to 20% chance of achieving pregnancy. So you can assume going in that it's going to take more than one cycle to achieve pregnancy. That said, if you do have the means to purchase multiple vials, it's best to do so because the donors do sell out, or they may need a family limit and therefore could only be distributed to individuals that had already had a child. So if you have the means to purchase more vials, you should. And as Doreen said, we do store on site. And if you end up not using all of them and they're stored with Fairfax, you can return them for a partial refund.
50% as long as it's never left our facility. So that, I mean, that's a great program we offer. We also offer bulk savings if you're purchasing all at once. If you purchase 6 vials at once, you get 1 year free storage. 8 vials or more, you get 2 years of free storage. So you're saving money there as well. Normally your storage fees are $40 per month. But it's all up to what you're going to need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, if you purchase one of the access packages, can you upgrade to the most detailed package at a later date?
You can. You want to make that decision as soon as possible, and you do need to call client services to manually upgrade that, but we're happy to help you with that. I know a lot of times it won't let you repurchase it unless your full package totally runs out. So you can give us a call and we'd be happy to walk you through what options are available depending on your specific situation.
Great. Is it important to look for the expanded genetic testing?
I think that's a conversation for you and your physician because it's dependent on what some clinics do have requirements that they want you to talk to a genetic counselor before you purchase. Some clinics don't require that. If your donor is a carrier for something, we do require that you sign a consent form before you ship. We're trying to protect you so that you know that exactly what you're getting with that. But it's definitely a question for your licensed medical professional to see what their recommendation is, I would say.
It's really critical if you know that you're a carrier for something.
Yeah.
So if you yourself have had expanded panel genetic carrier testing, and for example, if you know that you're a carrier for a cystic fibrosis mutation, you're going to want to choose a donor who is not a carrier for a cystic fibrosis mutation. And it's really easy to do that on the search. So I would say if you know that you're a carrier, it is critically important. If you're not, then speak to your medical provider and they can give you some advice on that. And again, Doreen mentioned when she was going through, there's a fantastic webinar, a recording of a previous webinar by Suzanne Seitz, one of our genetic counselors. And she reviews all of that information, when you should be looking, what you should be looking for, how to do the searches. She explains the risk and all of that. She goes, it's a really powerful, good information filled webinar. So look for that on the blog.
Great. So this one's about the face match feature. So they say, for the face match, are you saying that if you have adult photos of all your donors on file, even though they are not available for the site users to view?
Correct. We do have clinical photos of all of our donors for our reference. Not all of our donors have authorized us to use their adult photos. So not only about a third of our donors do offer adult photos on our website, and you're able to search for that in the advanced search if that's something that's really important to you. But we do have some donors that just have childhood photos.
Great. Does your company have any initiatives to increase Black donors? The list is always very slim, even with just 2 selections.
Yes, I can speak to that. This is our forever goal, is to increase diversity of our donor catalog, specifically to meet the needs of all of you, our recipients. And historically, so I've been with the company for 15 years. From day one that I've been here, it has been very difficult for us to get significant numbers of non-Caucasian applicants. That said, we have really put a lot of work into making our recruiting advertisements very inclusive. It's important for us all to be reflected. So we're using men of color, different styles, we're really trying to diversify our advertising. We're also working really hard to reach out specifically to non-Caucasian communities. So not just Black donors, but also Latino donors, Asian donors, Asian Pacific Islander donors. We're looking Indian donors. We want to increase all of those populations. Getting through the donor screening process is not easy. About 1 in every 200 initial applicants makes it through that whole screening process to become a donor. So, right now it doesn't look like there's a ton of diversity on the catalog. I assure you it is leaps and bounds better than it was a decade ago, 5 years ago. And we are all very committed to increasing that diversity because we know that we have a very sort of beautifully diverse recipient population. And we know that we are here to meet your needs. So we are working for that. We're always open to feedback and recommendations. We're happy to take any recommendations for, where and how to do additional recruiting. We are typically looking online advertising. We have worked with historically Black colleges and universities to try to tap into that market as well. So we're always looking for that. So yes, there are multiple initiatives, and I wish it could happen faster, and I wish we had higher numbers, but we are working very hard on that.
Great. Okay. Can you explain ID versus non-ID donors? And then also, are pregnancies typically reported to Fairfax? And if so, are donors removed after a certain number of pregnancies?
You want to take the start, Doreen, and I'll go at the end?
I can. Yeah, absolutely. So our ID donors are donors who have agreed to release identifying information to a registered offspring once that child has reached the age of 18 and requests it. So they are allowing us to release their identifying information, like their name, their last contact information, to that child once they're 18 and has been registered in our ID program. So once you have a child with our ID program or an ID donor, you want to call us to get that correct form filled out to register them, so that when they're ready, when they're 18 and ready to reach out to us, we're able to help them with that. Non-ID donors don't provide that service. The easiest way to say that, they were previously called anonymous donors. So they're donors that are never going to release any identifying information to offspring through our ID program.
So just a caveat to that, in 2020, California state put in new legislation that requires that previously anonymous / non-ID donors have the option to consent to the release of their information. And we thought this was really important, and we have applied this to all of our donors, all of our non-ID donors. So we have a process by which a previously non-ID donor can work with the cryobank to complete a new consent. It doesn't change his brand code or anything on the website. His donor brand code remains non-ID, but in that summary profile that we pulled up, if you scroll to the bottom, you would see there if the non-ID donor has consented to release of his information upon request by your child. So that's just a caveat to that. I will tell you, we have been proactively reaching out to the non-ID donors, and very few of them are completing the process, but those who are, it's indicated in that summary profile and in our records. And then just a little plug before we get to the family sizes. In that summary profile, there's that update section that I just mentioned where you would look for this. Right now, we are the only sperm bank that is proactively reaching out to our retired donors to get updates from them over time. If you think about it, the medical profile is a snapshot in time. This is how their health is now, their parents, their grandparents. Obviously, that's going to change over time. It changes for all of us. So that information can also be found in the summary profile. That's where you would look to see if the non-ID donors have consented to the release of their information. Doreen, do you want to speak to pregnancy reporting?
Yes, so absolutely. So we require per the form that you signed to purchase with us that you report pregnancies and births. I will say I'm a parent. I know that sometimes life doesn't calm down until a couple years after your child's born. So we do accept birth reports long after it's a brand new newborn. But we do keep that on file. And that is so that we can limit the family units, which we limit at 25 family units per donor. So we do request, but we are aware that we can't track you down and force you to report anything to us.
We do try to make it easy though.
Yes.
It's an easy form that you can fill out online because we need that information. We want to be able to keep the family limit at 25 domestically in the United States. Mm-hmm. And what that means is if you have a child from the donor, you could potentially purchase additional vials for another child because you're still one family, but we wouldn't distribute to new recipients that haven't already reported the pregnancy or birth. I did want to specify the United States, the domestic limit of 25, because we do have international distribution for some of the donors, and the limits for those donors are specific to where they're being distributed. So for example, if we have anyone on the webinar today from the UK, the limit in the UK, a much smaller country than the United States, is 10 families. Various limits in Australia, things like that. So we are really reliant on all of you, as Doreen said, to report your births to us. We need that information.
And I will say those are the best phone calls that I get, is that you had a child. That makes everybody in client services day when we hear that, because that's our goal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Does Fairfax provide at-home insemination kits when vials are purchased?
So we have a great webinar on home insemination. We are able to ship to home addresses with consent forms on file. If you have questions about that, please call our client services team so we can help you case by case what needs you need for that. We are able to provide syringes or needleless syringe devices as requested, as well as instructions once we have everything in place for you to deliver to a home address. And that is really for most of our US clients. I think internationally there are different legislation for that. So if that's a question, please reach out to us and we're able to help you try to figure out an option for what you need to do.
Michelle, this one's for you. Have there been less donors this last year because of COVID? How many new donors come in each month?
Yeah, so we keep getting this question. There's like a real boom right now, people really wanting to have families, which is fantastic. We actually have not seen a decrease in new donors coming into the program. Obviously, when COVID first was really first happening here in the United States last March, when things started shutting down and everything, we did have a little bit of a lull because we wanted to ensure safety of our staff, of our donors, of our clients. So there was a little bit of a lull. Some of our sites did have partial shutdowns for the donor program for short periods of time, but we're very lucky in that we're part of the Genetics and IVF Institute, and we have a molecular infectious disease testing lab that very quickly was able to develop a diagnostic RT-PCR COVID test, which is fantastic because then we could be testing our staff and our donors. We're also following very strict language screening protocols for all of our donors about travel, behaviors, exposures, symptoms, all of that. And we are either deferring if people are positive for COVID or if they have suspected exposure. So we basically have been able to keep up production throughout the pandemic with a lot of precautions in place, masking, contactless visits, all of that. So we're keeping that going. That said, we are also seeing increased demand. So whereas it may have been, 460 donors 3 months ago, maybe there's only 405 donors today or 300 donors. And that availability on our website is going to literally change day to day, because instead of seeing all of the donors, even those without availability, you're only seeing donors with availability, which our hope is then it's a little bit less frustrating for you. So instead of seeing 500 donors, only half of whom have available vials, you sift through far fewer donors. And then, I'm sorry, Morgan, what was the second part of the question?
And then how often are new donors added?
So we're constantly recruiting donors. We get hundreds and hundreds, actually over 1,000 applicants every month. And each of those guys has to complete a medical application, and we do screening visits. So we're constantly recruiting new donors at all 6 of our locations. That said, it does take time. We don't add a donor to the catalog until there's available inventory to distribute to you. And every single vial that's produced has to remain in a quarantine for 6 months. We are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and their gamete donor regulations require all specimens are in quarantine for 6 months and have bracketed acceptable testing both before and after. So it takes some time. So if a donor starts this month, he's not actually going to be available for sale for 6 to 7 months, 7, let's say. And so we try to add them as the inventory is clearing. We're in a weird period right now because this is 6 months after we had that lull, that little slowdown from the beginning of COVID. So there may be fewer donors going up. That said, we're putting multiple donors up every week. So I think in April, we might have put 12 new guys on the catalog. So that's a average of 3 each week. So there's the other benefit for the Club Fairfax. You get a week head start on those new releases. So we're constantly adding new donors. It does vary. As you can imagine, it was a little challenging to recruit new guys during the beginning of the pandemic. And that's the period that we're sort of coming out of now. So you should start seeing more new guys.
We're getting a lot of questions about the screening process. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So look, I'll talk forever. So I'm going to try and cut myself short here. The donor screening webinars that we've done in the past are recorded and available. But the bottom line for the screening process is they complete a medical application. If there is suitable medical history for themselves and 3 generations of their family, so themselves, parents generation, so like parents, aunts and uncles, and then grandparents, so 1st and 2nd degree relatives. Sometimes you get a 4th generation if the donor has a child himself. We review their medical history. If everything looks good on paper, we bring them into to one of our locations to screen semen samples. And we have to look for healthy samples with high counts and high motility, but most importantly, that can survive that freeze-thaw process, because it's not a pleasant process to be cryopreserved. You're being frozen in liquid nitrogen. So not all samples survive that freeze-thaw. So we look at several samples to look for consistency. If they look good, we will then, the prospective donor will then have a physical exam and an infectious disease blood draw, as well as a blood draw for all of that genetic testing that we do. If everything comes back good from that, that's when they would be entered in the program. Now, there's a lot more to it, and you can review that in the donor screening process, background checks, psych assessments, all of that. But that's sort of the quick and dirty, description of donor screening. So it's not easy, and we lose guys at each of those steps.
Great. Okay, what are the logistics after purchasing? Can it be sent to my doctor's office?
I always say that's part of the conversation you want to have with your physician. When purchasing, you need to know if you want us to store it for you or if you need to have it sent to your licensed medical professional's office for them to store it. The tanks that we ship out in our store keep the specimen frozen for 7 days, or you can upgrade to a 2-week tank for additional $50 if you need to have a longer tank. Some clinics offer storage there on site, some do not. So if your clinic does not, or if they want you to have it arrive a specific day, then you're going to want to have it ship out closer to that day, because we ship with overnight shipping or 2 business day shipping to your clinic. If you don't need it for a couple months, we're able to store it. We're currently offering 3 months of free storage, but if that promotion ends or if you need longer than that, it's $40 per month for storage here as well.
Okay.
They also have the option if you're local to one of our locations, not just Fairfax, but Philadelphia or Roseville or Pasadena, any of our Houston or Austin locations, you can also ship all of your vials to the location and do pickups. So you're paying for shipping once instead of multiple times. And you are able to then just pay a low handling fee for the staff to process the paperwork each time you wanted to pick up a vial to take to your clinic or take home for an insemination.
And I'll say that that option works the very best, in my opinion, if you're shipping multiple vials.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're paying the shipping fee every time to have it picked up from somewhere. But I would say, you know, 3 or more vials, if you're planning on purchasing that and you have them all shipped to the location that's closest to you, you're going to save money instead of paying that shipping fee every single time.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Great. How do you get on the donor wait list?
So currently we cap our donor wait list at 10 people on the wait list. After that, it's considered full. So some of our donors are going to have wait lists that are full, and some of them are going to have wait lists with room. So first you want to call or email or chat to see if the donor that you are interested in has room on their wait list. If they do, we're going to be happy to add you. Our client services team is going to be happy to add you to that. We'll need to know what preparation type you're needing to be on the wait list for, best contact number, best email address, so that we can reach out to you once we have vials available. Sometimes donors don't have room though, and then we would encourage you to call back on a regular basis to see if there's room to be added.
Okay.
Just for the wait list, as a heads up, a little sneak peek, it will be changing soon, and it will be very improved and user-friendly. And we're expecting in the next couple of months to have a whole new user experience on the wait list. So keep your eye out for that.
And we're very excited about that.
All of us are very excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Is family health history subjective information, or do you share this information based on medical records?
So the prospective donors are self-reporting the family histories, and then when they have their physical exam, they go through it again with the physician. It is self-reported though. We don't get medical records from the donor's family, so we're not verifying a parent's medical record. That said, if you download the medical profiles, which are all free for all donors, you'll see it's incredibly detailed. There have been instances where the prospective donors are doing their interview, which is part of the screening process, and they're literally on the phone with their mom asking how their grandmother, you know, when grandma was sick 5 years ago, what was wrong? You know, like they're getting all of that information, and there's a lot of details in there, and the staff is incredibly thorough during the donor interview to sort of probe with the right questions to tease out all of the important information. And then, of course, the physical exam is confirming the donor's medical health, and all of the infectious and genetic disease testing are also going to help us to verify that information.
Great. This one says, we are going through IVF, just finished 2 cycles. Is ART the best choice?
I would say if your donor has ART vials available, that is the best choice, because you need far fewer sperm for an IVF procedure. I would recommend that you speak to your medical practitioner, your doctor, the embryologist, somebody in the practice, and say, look, Fairfax offers an ART preparation, which has at least 6 million total motile cells. Is that good enough? Are you okay with that? Or should we go ahead and get, you know, 2 of them, or go for another prep? But for IVF, technically, they're more than enough. Typically, clinics, embryologists are using frozen samples that have around 5 million, so you're getting extra.
Mm-hmm. Someone wants to know, why are some donors cheaper than others?
Our donor prices are going to depend on a variety of factors, which include the donor themselves, the availability, whether they have expanded genetic panel testing or not, as well as what preparation type you are looking for. The Iui vials are more expensive than the ICI vials because they're more processed, because we're removing that seminal fluid. But it's going to depend on a lot of factors.
And generally, there's 2 things to look for in the pricing. If they're ID release or non-ID, the ID release are more expensive, and then the preparation types.
Great. On the website, if it shows availability active, but there's none available for purchase, what does that mean?
That generally is a question that's a little bit case by case, because it's going to depend on the status of the donor. I like to tell you whether or not that donor is still actively participating in our program when you're calling to inquire about that. Typically, if they're active, that means we're still expecting more vials to become available. But if they possibly may be pending retirement, so it would be limited vials, or there's a wait list and we're just waiting for additional inventory to be released. But if it's active, that's usually a good indicator that we're expecting additional vials.
Because remember, they all have to stay in quarantine, and then we have to get that post-testing.
Okay, so if a donor is UK compliant and also has vials for the US donors, does it limit the family size number? UK family limits are 10. Which number do you limit it by?
So it's limited in each country. So there would be 10 families available in the UK, and then in the United States, we could do 25.
Okay. If we are attempting 2 inseminations on different days in a cycle, can the same shipping tank be reused, i.e. opened and then closed and then opened in the single shipping?
So technically, yes. As long as you're storing the tank, and keeping it closed, once the tank is opened, the risk is that you're going to lose temperature. It's gonna warm up. As soon as you open it, when you open the tank, there's going to be a styrofoam plug and you're going to see a puff of vapor. As soon as you open it, you're exposing the tank to room temperature. There's a possibility that it's not going to stay as cold. If you're doing 2 home inseminations within like a 12-hour period, that should be fine. If you're going to do it, a couple days later, I wouldn't recommend using the same tank for both vials.
And as a caveat, if you needed to use an additional tank, that is an additional shipping fee usually. So, yeah. I mean, if that's what you need to do, just be aware that you may be charged additionally for shipping, because we would be shipping an additional tank for you what you need.
Yeah. And I would just recommend going back and watching the home insem, because Kate Wisda, the nurse practitioner, does talk about that, and especially in the Q&A, because this question has come up before. So she does address that in terms of if that affects your success rate and everything.
Great. So if we are shipping specimen to our fertility clinic, how many days notice do we need to give you?
So we ship very quickly is what I was trying to say. We only ship Monday through Friday and have the vials and the order arrive Monday through Friday. That's due to the fact that most clinics are only open Monday through Friday for shipments to receive them. Our overnight shipping can ship out 1 business day and arrive the next business day, as long as that order's in our system before 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our 2-day shipping arrives 2 business days later between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So you can also have that scheduled out within the month. Like currently we're able to schedule for May, but June's a little bit too far in advance for us to schedule. So you would need to call back later to schedule that if you need to have it ship in June. But we're able to ship fairly quickly, as I said, and we do our best to accommodate what you need and what your clinic needs for that.
Right. Do donors receive information about reported pregnancies?
So we don't proactively give donors that information. If the donors contact us and ask, we will let them know if a birth has been reported. We will not ever give information about recipients or the reported children's specific information to the donors. That information never flows that way. It only flows to the recipient's children. So we'll tell them, yes, there's been a birth reported, or yes, you have 4 families reported. We'll tell them that information, but that's really all.
Okay. What percentage of donors have adult photos available? It's so hard to choose a donor from 90s kids photos.
It's like, no, some of them are so crazy. Let's see. I'm actually so I will tell you, we made some changes to the program, and so you will start seeing more and more donors with adult photos. But if I go to the donor search, let's see, and we go to find a match. Are you all seeing my screen, the search here? Okay.
Yes.
Right now there are 305 donors total with available inventory today. And let's go to new search and adult photos, yes. Wow, okay, that's good. So I can't do fast math.
That's about what, one third?
About 33%. Yeah, so that's pretty good. About 33% have adult photos. I know some of the baby photos are hard, but some of them are so cute. Yeah, so about 30%, 33%.
And I will say, because we do have those adult photos, the clinical ones that we have available for our internal use, I have had plenty of clients call me and say, no, they don't have an adult photo. What does he look like? Describe him. We are happy to help you give our opinion, which is just my opinion of what that donor looks like. Try to compare it, answer questions about the shape of the nose, the eyes, the chin, whatever you have a question of that you're not able to see in that adult photo. If you call me and ask me, I will try my best to answer that for you.
All right. Are there any known side effects or birth defects noted from sperm donors due to the freezing process?
No. So, you know, the incidence of birth defects or things like that, it's no different. The statistics are no different for fresh sperm versus frozen sperm.
Is there a way to track if donors have families reported from another sperm bank?
This is a great question. So just quickly, I'll tell you that we are all the sperm banks are friendly. We all communicate with each other very often. And several years ago, the major sperm banks started participating in something called the Association of Gamete Donor Providers. And we created a database that allows us to proactively, when a new applicant comes in, we do a search to ensure that he hasn't already donated with another bank. And if they have, they're rejected. That said, this didn't always exist. And especially 25 years ago, 25 years ago, there were donors that did donate at multiple banks. And so when that comes to our attention, I know that I have worked with individuals at four other cryobanks in the United States to identify that. So if we can confirm the identity of the donor from the past and say, yes, this is the same social, the same date of birth, same guy, what we do is both they and we will put a note in their profile. That's something you'll find in the summary profile. Again, that's like the best tool. It's where you can find everything if there's information to be had. It would say, for example, donor 1234 with Fairfax Cryobank also donated with Cryobank A as donor number ABCD. And what we do is we actually do work together to track the families. Most of the time, I will tell you, when we're finding this out, it's well after the fact, and neither of us has inventory left. So we just will basically stay in touch with each other. If, for example, there's a report of an adverse report, we would communicate that with the other banks. So we are very friendly and we do communicate that information.
Here's another question. So as long as I know I'm not a carrier for the same thing as a donor, then the child should be fine.
Yes. So the diseases that we list in the expanded carrier panel are all recessive diseases, which means that you don't just need one mutated copy, you need two. So the child will get one copy of the gene from each parent. So we offer carrier donors because if you're a carrier for a recessive disorder, you don't have any manifestation of a disorder or a disease. It's when you have two mutations that you would have a manifestation of the disease. So that's why we say it's important for you not to be a carrier for the same thing as the donor. And not for nothing, but we're all carriers for something. We just don't know it because not everything has been characterized yet.
All right, I think we have time for one last question. Will there be another webinar in the future?
Doreen, you want to take it?
I can't remember when it's scheduled, but yes,
okay,
we are planning on doing more webinars to
Yeah.
my knowledge.
Yes, we are. We try to do them periodically, and our next webinar is actually LGBTQ family building for people using donor sperm, and it will be on June 2nd. And it'll be myself, Kate Wisda, the nurse practitioner that I mentioned, as well as one of our influencer partners who has some experience in the legal realm, which is really important for queer families.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Doreen, you did a great job. Thank you very much for hosting.
Thank you. You guys have a great day. Thank you for joining us today.
Bye.